The judge's gavel hit the table hard, and a sharp crack resounded in the courtroom as if the lid on my coffin had been closed. The entire marital estate is awarded to the plaintiff, Mrs. Claire Mitchell, my now ex-wife. In light of the defendant's conduct during this trial, I sat there, motionless, the words weighing me down like a suffocating burden. Everything, our house, our cars, our savings, was gone. Just like that. The silence that followed was not only in the courtroom, but in my head, a deafening emptiness that drowned out everything else the judge had to say. Something about my unwillingness to cooperate, about my belligerent stance. I barely caught it. Beside me, my attorney, someone I had actually paid to defend me, stared straight ahead, his lips pressed into a thin line, offering nothing. No fight, no argument, nothing. Betrayal. That was the only thought running circles in my mind. Not just from Claire, my wife of 11 years, the woman I had once trusted with everything, but from the entire system. I had come prepared, armed with evidence of her affair, proof that she had broken our vows, that she had thrown away everything we built together for someone else. And yet, none of it mattered. The court had taken her side without hesitation, without question. I wasn't naive. I knew how these things usually played out. But this wasn't justice. This was a robbery, wrapped in legal jargon and sealed with the judge's signature. Claire sat across from me, her expression carefully composed, except for the smirk. A small, satisfied curl of her lips she didn't even bother to hide. She had known how this would end from the start. I had stepped into this fight thinking I had a chance. I had been a fool. 2.5 months earlier, I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the vague explanations, the way she had started pulling away. Her excuses were always smooth, rehearsed to the point of perfection. Work was demanding. A new project had tight deadlines. Late meetings were unavoidable. Lies. At first, I let them slide. I was busy too, long hours running my construction business, pushing myself to build something real, something that mattered for both of us. Never in my worst nightmares did I think she'd take all that effort, all those years, and hand it over to someone else. Then came the moment that shattered any illusions I had left. The hotel receipt, not tucked away in a drawer, not hidden beneath a pile of papers. No, she left it right there, on the kitchen counter, next to the coffee machine, like she wanted me to find it. The Ashford Regency, one day and night, the suite, paid in full. His name was right there, Vincent Holloway. I knew that name, everyone did. A big-shot lawyer with a reputation as polished as his expensive suits. Charismatic, filthy rich, and ruthless, both in court and in his personal pursuits. The kind of man who collected victories and women with the same smug arrogance. And now, apparently, my wife was one of them. I gripped the receipt, staring at it so long my vision blurred, my brain refusing to process what my eyes had already confirmed. When I finally looked up, she was there, Claire, standing in the doorway like nothing was out of the ordinary, dressed in one of her neatly pressed blouses and a pencil skirt, sipping coffee from her favorite mug. Calm, unbothered. She didn't look guilty, didn't flinch, didn't even have the decency to pretend she regretted it. Instead, she smiled. Guess we should talk, huh? That was the moment everything changed. Somehow, I ended up at the kitchen table. I didn't remember sitting down, but there I was, fists clenched, so tight my knuckles ached. Across from me, Claire crossed her legs, settling in like we were about to discuss a business merger. Vincent and I have been seeing each other for about 6 months, she said, her tone as casual as if she were commenting on the weather. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I knew you'd react like this. I said nothing, my chest burning with barely contained rage. You've been so caught up in work, she went on, lazily swirling her coffee. We've just grown apart. It just happened. It just happened. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. Cut the crap, Claire. My voice was sharp, unforgiving. You don't just accidentally end up in bed with a guy like Holloway. You made a choice. She sighed, setting her mug down with an irritating little clink. I'm not here to fight, Noah. I just want to make this easy. We move on. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I opened my mouth, ready to rip into her, but then she did something that stopped me cold. She slid a manila folder across the table. Sign this. I eyed the folder like it might bite. Divorce papers, she added when I didn't move. And then the real gut punch. Vincent handled them for us. The arrogance, the sheer nerve. Not only was she leaving me for another man, but she had him draft the damn divorce papers. Like this was all just another legal transaction. Slowly, deliberately, I shoved the folder back across the table without even opening it. No, she blinked. Noah. I said no. Her lips pressed together, irritation flickering across her face before she masked it with a small, condescending smile. You don't really have a choice, she murmured, her tone syrupy sweet. We both knew how this worked. She had already hired Vincent as her attorney, and with the way our assets were arranged, she would walk away with everything. I pushed back my chair so fast it scraped against the floor, the sharp sound slicing through her words. Leaning forward, I locked eyes with her. I will never agree to this, I said, my voice low, controlled, lethal. For the first time, she hesitated, just for a second. Then that smirk returned. We'll see, she whispered. I walked out of that courtroom with nothing. No house, no business, no money. Claire had won, on paper at least. She thought it was over, that she had crushed me under the weight of a rigged system and a man who believed he was untouchable. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Because I wasn't done, not even close. She wanted to take everything from me? Fine. But I'd make sure she choked on her victory. Because when I strike back, when I turn the tables, Claire and Vincent Holloway won't just lose. They'll fall. And I'll be standing there watching them burn. The courthouse smelled like old paper and stale coffee. I used to associate that scent with nothing more than routine paperwork, tedious legal matters. Not anymore. Now it reeked of defeat. But I wasn't defeated, not yet. I stood outside the courtroom, fists clenched at my sides, staring at the doors that had just slammed shut behind me. Inside, my ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex, since the ink hadn't dried yet, was probably reveling in her win. She thought she had me. That alone was enough to send anger boiling under my skin. I had walked in prepared. I had evidence, proof of Claire's affair, bank statements, credit card records showing expensive hotel stays, text messages, messages I had obtained legally, exposing everything. Conversations between her and Vincent Holloway, plotting long before she dared to hand me divorce papers. None of it mattered, because Vincent Holloway wasn't just some lawyer. He was a master manipulator. And today, in that courtroom, I saw just how deep his influence ran. The room had been packed, almost entirely with her people. Claire hadn't just come prepared, she came to win. Her side of the courtroom was packed. Friends, colleagues, and so-called character witnesses, all carefully chosen to paint her as the poor, mistreated wife. Meanwhile, I had my lawyer Patrick sitting next to me. A good man, but completely outmatched. Across from us, Vincent sat with that smug, polished grin, the kind designed to charm juries and win over judges before a single argument was even made. The moment he stood up, I knew I was about to get blindsided. Your Honor, he began, his voice smooth and calculated. We have serious concerns regarding Mr. Mitchell's ability to retain any portion of the marital estate. My fist clenched. What the hell was he talking about? Claire, right on cue, played her part to perfection, her hands trembling as she dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. We regret that it's come to this, Vincent continued, pacing like he was delivering the closing statement in a high-profile murder trial. But we can't ignore the pattern of behavior that has left my client, a devoted, faithful wife, fearing for her safety. I almost laughed. Almost. Because then he pulled out a thick folder, heavy enough to crush a man's last shred of hope. Exhibit A, he announced smoothly, handing the judge a stack of printed emails. I leaned toward Patrick, my voice low and sharp. What the hell is that? Patrick flipped through the pages and his face went pale. That was when I knew. I had been set up. Hard. Vincent turned to the judge. These emails, obtained through legal discovery, show a disturbing pattern of behavior. In them, Mr. Mitchell repeatedly threatens my client, uses violent language, and, most alarmingly, implies that he would rather destroy everything than allow her to leave the marriage peacefully. What? My voice echoed through the courtroom. The judge's glare shut me down instantly. Mr. Mitchell, you will remain silent unless spoken to. I bit down on my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Patrick kept flipping through the pages, his fingers moving fast, his eyes scanning. I never wrote those, I muttered under my breath. Patrick looked up, grim. They're coming from your email. My email. Vincent Holloway had faked everything, and I had walked right into it. He wasn't done, not even close. Exhibit B, he continued, handing over a sworn statement from one of Claire's friends. It described me as an angry, volatile man prone to outburst. A danger. Exhibit C. Photos of our home, scratched furniture, a broken picture frame, minor damages that could have happened on accident, now twisted into evidence of a violent husband. Exhibit D. A restraining order request, already written just waiting for the judge's signature. They had built the perfect narrative, and I had no way to stop it. They had painted me as an unstable, reckless man, someone incapable of keeping his emotions in check. In the eyes of the court, I wasn't just unfit to hold on to my own assets, I was a threat. The judge's words hit like a hammer, each syllable sealing my fate. I find in favor of the petitioner. Mrs. Mitchell shall retain full ownership of the marital estate, including all financial assets, real estate, and vehicles. Furthermore, due to the respondent's aggressive nature, I am granting a temporary restraining order. Mr. Mitchell, you are to vacate the marital home immediately. Everything else blurred. The details, the formalities, they didn't matter. It was over. They had won. I walked out of that courtroom with nothing but the clothes on my back. Claire didn't even bother to hide her satisfaction. As I passed her in the hallway, she leaned in just enough for only me to hear. Told you we'd see, she whispered, smug and victorious. And then Vincent Holloway, the architect of this entire setup, had the audacity to wink at me. They thought I was finished, thought I'd disappear, broken and humiliated. They were wrong. I had no money, no home, no business. They had stripped me of everything. But they made a mistake. They assumed that taking everything from me would leave me powerless. Vincent Holloway believed he was untouchable, that he could manipulate the system, forge evidence, and get away with it. And Claire? She thought she had taken everything I had to lose. But she overlooked something critical. When a man has nothing left, he has nothing to fear. And that makes him the most dangerous kind of man. I had lost my house, my savings, my company, my reputation. But I wasn't out. A man with nothing left will do whatever it takes, and I was done playing by their rules. They thought they had won the game. What they didn't realize was that I was just getting started. The first week after the ruling was hell. Nowhere to go, no real plan, no idea what came next. I crashed at Travis's place, one of the few people I knew I could trust. A former Marine, an old friend. The kind of guy who didn't ask questions unless they mattered. We sat on his porch, beer in hand. You got screwed, man, he muttered, passing me a cold bottle. I took a long sip, the bitterness hitting hard. Yeah, but I'm not about to sit here feeling sorry for myself. Travis smirked. Good, because if you started whining, I was about 5 minutes away from smacking you upside the head. I huffed out a short laugh. Travis never did have patience for pity parties. So what's the plan? Travis asked, kicking his feet up on the railing. That was the question, wasn't it? I'd spent the last few nights running through every possibility, analyzing every move I could make. Vincent Holloway had played dirty. He had stacked the courtroom against me with forged evidence, phony witnesses, in a web of corruption that let him walk away clean. But every predator has a weakness, and I was going to find his. I needed leverage, real dirt. If he was willing to fabricate documents to take me down, then there had to be more skeletons in his closet. And the best place to start digging? His money. Holloway and Parker Law Firm had prestige, power, and deep pockets. But even the biggest sharks have weak spots. So I spent the next few days tracking down anyone who had ever crossed paths with Vincent and walked away bitter. Former clients, ex-employees, anyone with a grudge. And I found something, or rather, someone. Natalie Jensen. She used to be a paralegal at his firm before she got fired under suspicious circumstances. I tracked her down on LinkedIn and sent a message. She didn't respond, so I went to her new job, a small coffee shop on the edge of town. The moment I walked in, she spotted me. Her eyes widened and she started backing away. I raised my hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. She hesitated, her gaze darting around the shop like she expected Vincent to walk in any second. I just want to talk, I said. About Holloway. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I don't talk about him. Because he paid you off? A flicker in her expression. Got her. I pulled out a chair and sat down. I know what he did to you, Natalie, and I know you hate him for it. You don't have to tell me everything. Just answer one question. I leaned in slightly. Was it dirty money? A long silence stretched between us. Then finally she whispered, "You have no idea how dirty." She didn't give me much, but she gave me enough. Vincent Holloway wasn't just fabricating evidence. He was laundering money through fake legal settlements. Turns out he had been running a side hustle for years, setting up bogus personal injury lawsuits where the so-called plaintiffs were actually shell companies he controlled. On paper, the settlements looked legitimate. In reality, the money funneled straight into his pockets. That was fraud. And fraud, that could bring down even the most untouchable lawyer. I couldn't take him down alone. I needed someone with the right connections. And I knew exactly who to call. Vanessa Holloway, Vincent's wife. I had done my research on her too. And let's just say their marriage wasn't as picture perfect as it seemed. Vincent might have been a force in the courtroom, but at home, he was just another cheating bastard. Vanessa had always known. She wasn't blind to the man she had married. She just chose to stay for the wealth, the status, the power. But loyalty had its limits. So I sent her a message, anonymous but direct. I have proof that Vincent is committing fraud. If you want to take everything from him before he does the same to you, let's talk. I didn't expect an answer, but the next day I got one. Where and when? Vanessa was sharper than I had given her credit for. We met at Willowbrook Cafe, the kind of place where no one paid attention. She arrived in dark sunglasses and a scarf, making it obvious she didn't want to be seen. She sat down across from me, wasting no time. "You said you have proof," she said, her voice as steady as ever. I pulled a USB drive from my pocket and slid it across the table. "It's all there. Fake settlements, hidden bank accounts, wire transfers, all traced back to Vincent." She picked up the drive, but didn't even glance at it. Instead, she fixed her eyes on me. "And what do you get out of this?" I leaned back in my chair, watching him go down. A smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. "I like you." I shrugged. "So are you in?" Vanessa tapped her nails against the table, thinking. Then, without hesitation, she pulled out a business card and pushed it toward me. A direct line, no names, just a number. "My cousin," she said, "IRS Fraud Division. You give him the right information, and Vincent won't just lose his career, he'll lose everything." For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to satisfaction. Vincent Holloway built his empire on control, manipulating the legal system, twisting facts, paying his way out of problems. He thought he was untouchable. Claire thought she had beaten me, like I was some fool who never saw it coming. They had no idea what was about to hit them. The very next day, I made the call, kept it simple. "I have proof that Vincent Holloway has been laundering money through fraudulent legal settlements." That was all it took. The IRS didn't need much to start digging, and Vanessa made sure they dug deep. Within a week, Vincent was under federal investigation. And the best part? He didn't even know it yet. Vincent Holloway had spent years carefully crafting his image, the brilliant attorney, the respected businessman, the man who always came out on top. That image was about to shatter. Vincent Holloway had built his entire identity around power. He was the courtroom shark, the man with connections, the lawyer everyone feared. So I took that from him. Using the information Natalie Jensen had given me, I fed two carefully curated stories to an investigative journalist. The first exposed his fraudulent legal settlements and the active IRS investigation against him. The second, a full expose on his history of cheating, complete with testimonies from former lovers. The first story destroyed his career. The second, that one was for Vanessa. By the time the article hit the press, his world started crumbling. Clients pulled their cases, refusing to be associated with him. His law partners, desperate to salvage their own reputations, distanced themselves. The name Holloway became toxic overnight. And Claire? She had no idea just how deep this was going to cut. Vincent had promised her the world. Wealth, influence, security. She had thought she was trading up, leaving me behind for a future set in stone. She had bet on the wrong man. When the IRS got involved, they froze every single one of Vincent's accounts. No liquid assets. No hidden safety net. One morning, Claire woke up and discovered her luxury car had been seized. The mansion she lived in, under investigation. The financial security she had counted on, gone. And Vincent? He was unraveling. The best part? He didn't know who had leaked his secrets. And when he started piecing things together, his paranoia turned straight to Claire. Vanessa, proving once again that she was 10 steps ahead, played her part flawlessly. The moment the investigation broke, she filed for divorce. Not only that, she froze his assets before he could touch them. Then, with calculated precision, she planted the final seed of doubt. You really think it's a coincidence that this all started after her? Claire's the only new thing in your life, Vincent. And just like that, he bought it. The second Vincent stopped trusting Claire, she lost everything. By the time she reached out to me, she was desperate. Her voicemail was a pathetic, breathy plea. Noah, I need to talk to you, please. I didn't know this would happen. I didn't mean for any of this. Just call me back, okay? I deleted it without a second thought, but I wasn't done yet. Claire had taken everything from me. Now it was my turn. I made a call to an old friend, a real estate broker who specialized in distressed properties. Holloway's house was about to hit the market, and I made sure I was the one who snatched it up. A quiet, anonymous offer, a fraction of its worth. A month later, Claire was out. She tried everything, legal appeals, negotiations, even pleading with the banks. But there was no way around it. The house she thought she had secured, the life she believed she had won, was gone. Desperation must have hit hard because she ended up at my doorstep. She didn't look like the woman who had once stood in court with that smug little smile. Her hair was a mess, her clothes thrown together like she hadn't slept in days. No confidence, no arrogance, just a broken, exhausted version of the person who had torn my life apart. Noah, please. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking at what was left of her. I tilted my head. Please what? Her eyes welled up. I have nowhere to go. A slow grin crept across my face. Good. Then I shut the door in her face. This wasn't just about money or revenge anymore. This was about making sure they felt it, the way I had felt it when they ripped my life apart. Vincent was ruined. His career was dead. His finances were in shambles. Claire had been reduced to nothing, standing outside my house begging for scraps. And me, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Vincent's downfall wasn't finished yet. The IRS investigation had started with financial fraud, but once Vanessa's cousin got involved, things escalated fast. They dug deeper, found more dirt, and before Vincent even had a chance to react, the district attorney's office was involved. Fraud, tax evasion, obstruction of justice. One charge after another piled up. The media ate it up like a feast, headlines turning his name into a public disgrace. The man who once strutted through courtrooms like he owned them was now scrambling to keep himself out of prison. And his law firm, the moment the scandal went public, they dropped him like dead weight. His partners, the same people who once had his back, turned on him without hesitation. No job, no clients, no allies. And as for Claire, she did what she always did when things got tough. She ran. The second she saw Vincent sinking, she jumped ship. I thought that was the last I'd hear from her. I was wrong. A few days later, I got a text. Claire, Noah, please, I just want to talk. I ignored it. Then another. Claire, I made a mistake. Please, I just need a chance to explain. Explain? Explain what? That she tossed aside 10 years of marriage because she thought she was moving up in the world? That she had no problem tearing me down, taking everything as long as Vincent kept her wrapped in wealth and privilege? And now, with him broke and disgraced, she suddenly wanted to talk? I ignored her message. A week later, I spotted her outside my house, the very house Vincent once owned, the one I picked up for pennies when the bank seized his assets. She looked wrecked, hair unkempt, dark circles shadowing her eyes, still wearing designer clothes, but they no longer fit the image. Instead of wealth, she wore desperation. I let her stand there, waiting, shifting from foot to foot, clinging to the hope that I'd take pity on her. Then I stepped outside. Her face lit up, like she truly believed I was about to save her. Noah, she whispered. I folded my arms, watching her. Why are you here? She swallowed hard. I need help. I raised an eyebrow. You have Vincent for that. Her face crumpled. Vincent's ruined. I smiled. I know. She let out a shaky breath, shaking her head. I don't have anywhere to go, Noah. I cut her off. You mean you don't have anywhere comfortable to go? You can find a cheap motel, maybe a shelter if it comes to that. But that's not what you want, is it? Her face burned with shame, but she didn't argue. I let out a short, humorless laugh. This is rich. You threw me away, convinced you had something better. And now that it's all gone, you come crawling back? Tears welled in her eyes. Noah, please. No. My voice was firm, final. No more pleading, no more manipulation. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to steel. You lost the right to ask me for anything the day you stood in that courtroom and watched them strip everything from me without a second thought. She shook her head, barely able to speak. I didn't know. I cut her off again. You didn't care. That landed. Hard. Her lips parted, but no words came. I let the silence stretch before I gave her my final words. You need help? I said, tilting my head slightly. Go find another fool, because I'm not the man you once knew. Then I turned and walked away, and this time I never looked back. Vincent was finished. Claire had nowhere to go. And me? I had never been better. I rebuilt everything from the ground up. Only this time, I did it smarter, stronger. I put protections in place, made damn sure that no one could ever take what was mine again. Vanessa walked away from her marriage with half of what Vincent had left, while the IRS drained the rest. She came out ahead, and she knew it. A week after the divorce was finalized, she sent me a bottle of top-shelf whiskey as a silent thank you. I sent her a note in return. Next round's on me. As for me, I moved forward. A new home, a new life, a new purpose. And every once in a while, I'd catch a headline about Vincent, drowning in legal battles from some dingy apartment. Or I'd hear whispers about Claire, stuck working retail just to scrape by. And I'd allow myself a small, satisfied smirk. They thought they had buried me. What they forgot was that I wasn't the kind of man you could keep down. I was the kind who came back stronger. And this time, no one was taking anything from me ever again. I have selected 2 more videos that I think you will enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot.